You guys know there is an upcoming trial for the guy who took out Tupac, right? He was involved in Tupac's pow pow. Guess who's going to be the key witness for the prosecution? Foxy Brown. I was like, what? Guess who is smack down in the middle of all of this? Diddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy. At this point, we should no longer be surprised when Diddy is implicated in these things. But guess what Diddy did? He put a $1 million bounty on Tupac and Suge Knight's head. And when Tupac was taken out, this guy confirmed with Diddy that they did it and asked for his $1 million bounty. Anyway, so this story broke today. I mean, some of the stuff we already know, some of the stuff Keefe Davis has already mentioned them, but a New York magazine came out with an explosive article today about audio that is available. So let's go back to how this whole thing unraveled, how this guy ended up being arrested, why Foxy Brown is going to be the key witness for the prosecution. Back in 2008, Dwayne Keefe, spelling Keefe, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Davis gets arrested on drug. I don't know whether it's drug possession or drug and distribution. I don't know. Bear in mind that Keefe is part of gangs, right? I think he's part of like the Crips. Anyway, so he tells the detectives or prosecution that I have some information on one of your unsolved crimes, right, which is still ongoing. So, you know, the prosecution or the detectives, they're interested, like, which one? He says Tupac. Okay, you know, Tupac is a huge case, so they're even more interested. He brokers a deal with the prosecution. This is in 2008. What they offer him is called a proffer. In legal terms, and in this particular case, this is where the authorities say to you, tell us all the information you know about an ongoing case or unsolved case. We are not going to charge you or prosecute you based on the information you give us. So he says, okay, and usually they do that when they weigh, you know, the information they have and the cases they are looking at. I mean, you've arrested the guy for drugs and the guy says, I have information on who killed Tupac. I mean, that's a bigger case and that's murder, right? That is weighs more than, you know, taking this guy to jail or prison for drugs. So they were like, okay, tell us everything you know. Even if you were involved, at least we're going to have this case resolved, closed, right? Okay, fine. And they are not supposed to even try some of the people mentioned in his revelation. So he tells them this shocking story, how Tupac got in a fight with his nephew, Orlando Anderson, and also how Diddy put a $1 million bounty on Tupac and Suge Knight's heads. But anyway, so the guy says that in 1996, I believe that's the year when Tupac was actually unalived, right? So in 1996, people who had money, they went to Las Vegas to watch the Mike Tyson fight. Even gang members were there. The Bloods and the Crips, they were all there. So I think Tupac and Suge may have been part of the Bloods. I don't know. But Keefe and his nephew and his crew, they were part of the Crips. The fight was held, I believe, at MGM Grand in Vegas. Well, it seems Tupac and his crew run into Keefe's nephew, Orlando Anderson. They get into an argument that ends up being physical. Physical meaning Tupac laid his hands on Keefe's nephew, Orlando. He beat him up. They were arguing about somebody stealing, you know, a diamond chain from Death Row Records, right? And Tupac ends up just whipping Orlando. You know that doesn't go well, especially if you are gang rivals. So obviously Keefe hears that, Tupac, attacked your nephew. So that later on that evening, Keefe gets a gun from a guy known as Eric Martin. Keep in mind that Eric Martin is also Diddy's friend, allegedly. Everything in this video story is all alleged, right? None of us were there. So everything I put on this channel, alleged, reportedly, I don't know. I wasn't there, okay? I'm just telling you what I read, what I've seen. So he goes to Eric Martin and obtains a .40 caliber gun, right? Keefe, his associates, and his nephew, they go looking for Tupac. Remember, Tupac just beat him up, and these are rival gangs. They spot Tupac and Suge Knight's car. Then they do a drive-by. Pow, 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 pow. Tupac is rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, he never made it. So that is September 7, 1996. Tupac is killed. But prior to that, a year before that, 1995, Diddy puts a bounty on Tupac and Suge Knight's head. They are in a hotel, according to Keefe, right? This hotel is filled with gang members. They're eating, drinking pink champagne. We know Diddy likes pink things, right? Anyway, Diddy then declares that he's going to pay $1 million to anybody who takes out Tupac and Suge Knight. Now, I know some of you are wondering, but why would Diddy do this? Tupac was signed to Death Row Records, which was Suge Knight's record company, I believe. Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie was signed to Bad Boy Records or Bad Boy Entertainment, which is Diddy's recording company. These two were the biggest rappers at that time. There was Tupac and there was Biggie. So they had that West Coast, East Coast kind of rap rivalry or rap battle. But interestingly, did you guys know that before Biggie and Tupac were actually rivals, they were friends? But once Biggie started dealing with Diddy, allegedly, Diddy did not like the friendship Biggie had with Tupac. So he kind of, in a way, forced him to make Tupac his enemy. And maybe he was thinking that was good for the music because they'll be, dissing each other in tracks. I don't know. But Diddy was allegedly jealous of Biggie and Tupac's friendship. Unfortunately, both guys ended up being killed. Tupac was killed and Biggie was killed. Anyway, so Diddy puts this $1 million bounty on his rivals, Tupac and Suge Knight. Did they take out Tupac because they wanted to collect that $1 million bounty from Diddy? Or did he pow as revenge for Tupac putting hands on him? Well, according to Keefe, he was taken out as revenge, not really for the $1 million bounty Diddy put on him. When you look at that, you're like, okay, he wasn't killed because of the $1 million bounty. So that means, Diddy is free. I mean, you can't say Diddy is guilty. No, if it is true, he's still guilty, right? He was soliciting people to kill Tupac, right? Anyway, so he says that even though Tupac's killing was separate from the $1 million Diddy put on Tupac, they still asked for the $1 million. Tupac gets shot. It's all over the news. Diddy immediately calls Eric Martin. Eric Martin is the guy who gave the .40 caliber gun to Keefe, and Keefe ended up giving that gun to his nephew. His nephew is the one who shot Tupac, okay? You see the connections? Diddy is friends with Eric Martin. Eric Martin gave a 40 caliber gun to Keefe. Keefe gave that gun to his nephew, Orlando. Orlando is the one who did the drive-by shooting that ended Tupac's life. Diddy calls his associate Eric Martin. Was that us? Once he gets hold of the news that Tupac is gone, okay? Diddy is happy, allegedly, that Tupac is gone, right? But he's like, was that us? Keefe is there and he says, yes, that was us. Keefe tells Diddy, so can I get my $1 million bounty? Diddy says, yeah. Diddy instructs Eric, the guy who handed the gun to Keefe, to pay Keefe the $1 million bounty. At the end of the day, Keefe says he was dead. Diddy wanted him dead. It didn't even matter why he was killed. I was trying to collect that $1 million, right? So they lied to Diddy that they killed him, pay his request. I hope I'm making sense, right? Anyway, now, how does Foxy Brown come into this picture? 1996, Mike Tyson is a heavyweight champion. Everybody watches his matches, right? So Foxy was in Vegas. Eric Martin was in Vegas. Keefe and his crew were in Vegas. I don't remember if Diddy was in Vegas, but I would think he would have been hours before Tupac was killed. Orlando tells his uncle Keefe about what Tupac did to him. They want revenge. They want to get Tupac and Suge Knight. They need guns. Keefe contacts Eric. Eric says, okay, meet me in the parking lot of MGM Grand Valet. When he gets to the car, he realizes that Foxy Brown is also in the car with Eric Martin. Eric Martin tells Foxy Brown, can you please step out? I need to have a quick talk with Keefe. Let me read. There's too much information, okay? So he says, keep in mind that some of this was written in the 2019 memoir. That's Keefe's memoir. He met Eric, an associate of Sean Diddy Combs, at MGM Grand Casino Valet in Las Vegas on September 7, 1996. I have to read this, okay? Keefe alleges that when he approaches Martin's car, rapper Foxy Brown was inside the vehicle with Martin. Martin then instructed Fox to step outside so Keefe could get in. Once inside Martin's car, Keefe claims Martin retrieved a 40 caliber Glock handgun from a hidden compartment and handed it to Keefe, saying, it's time to get the money. What money? The $1 million bounty Diddy put on Tupac and Suge Knight. So he understood the assignment was go kill him. We're going to collect $1 million if we get this job done. And I get the feeling that Keefe used this moment, his nephew's anger, to get Tupac. But you know, let's think about this. Let's think outside of what was happening. Did they start with Tupac so that they could kill him to get that $1 million? You know, they run into Tupac and his crew. They instigate the fight with Tupac and his people. So the question is, did they instigate that so they have a reason to go after Tupac, knowing in the back of their head that there's a bounty on his head? Anyway, so he says, after getting the gun from Martin, Keith states he led Foxy Brown back into Martin's car before they drove off. They go looking for Tupac. He hands the gun to his nephew Orlando, and Orlando was the gunman that ended Tupac's life. So from all of these things, if true, Diddy is still guilty. right? Because he put out a bounty to have this guy killed. And like I was saying, maybe they just started fake fighting with Tupac that day so that they could have a reason to go after him. Meanwhile, they know that Diddy said he's gonna pay whoever takes him out $1 million. And unfortunately, Tupac didn't even know. He fell right into the trap. So that's what he alleges happened in 1996. And he was telling this story in 2008 as part of an immunity deal with the prosecution. So now the prosecution was like, okay, we need to verify this information. We're not going to charge you. We promised we won't. But let's go to New York. Let's connect with Martin to verify this story. So the prosecution take Keefe to New York to meet with Martin. It fails. Martin refuses to talk, refuses to even mention anything about Tupac's death, Diddy putting out $1 million. He didn't even say, no, Diddy didn't. He just refused to talk about it. So they couldn't go anywhere with it. I know, because some of you will be like, so why didn't they go after Diddy after they learned that information? They couldn't. They needed more people to sort of corroborate the story Keefe was giving them. That was 2008. It ends there. They can't use the information. They can't charge him. They can't charge Diddy. So the case is showing as unsolved. Now, this detective that was working on this case, his name is Greg Kading. He's the one who actually wrote a book and gave this explosive interview to New York Magazine. He was the one who was talking to Keefe in 2008. They believed what Keefe said about Diddy. And they also believed that his nephew is the one who took him out as part of revenge. But they also believed there was a bounty. Foolishly, this guy, in 2018, 2019, he starts to do interviews. There are interviews on YouTube. He starts to do interviews. He writes a memoir. He talks about knowing who took out Tupac, having more evidence. He says more than he told the police back in 2008. So the police are like, oh, so you left out some information. In 2023, they arrest him and charge him with Tupac's murder. They tell him, you told us A, but in these social media interviews and your memoir, you're saying something completely different. He says, no, I lied to you. In 2008, what I told you was not true. Actually, no, Diddy did not even put up that $1 million bounty I talked about. Everything I told you was a lie. I was just trying to get out of the drug charge that you had on me. So I made up a story knowing that was a big case that was unsolved. So you know what the police say? Okay, since you claim that you lied, but we believe what you said, because some of the things he said as it pertained to the caliber that killed Tupac and how he died and everything surrounding Tupac's shooting matches the evidence the police collected. So they believed him. But now that he was claiming to them that he lied to them, the deal is off. They can now use that audio to prosecute him. But not only him. They want to go after Diddy too for the $1 million bounty he put on Tupac and Suge Knight's head. Who do they want to use? They want to use Foxy Brown. They want to know what Foxy Brown heard, what Foxy Brown saw. Even prior to Foxy Brown being with Eric Martin, she was hanging out with some of Keefe's associates. So Foxy Brown is actually vital and is going to be pivotal to them finding this guy guilty. But also, there are other informants working with the prosecution telling them Foxy Brown was there. Foxy Brown knows a lot. Foxy Brown saw some things. Foxy Brown heard some things. She actually may know what Eric told her about Diddy putting up a $1 million bounty. I tell you, if this was said before Cassie's case, I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have, for me, I never saw Diddy as somebody who was violent, right? Because he's always like funny and, likes to play around. I never took him seriously. He was a good music producer, but I just never thought of him being violent, let alone putting a bounty for somebody to be killed. That was never Diddy in my head. But now, after all these civil lawsuits, watching that video of him viciously attacking Cassie, you can say anything about Diddy, I'm going to believe it. This guy's craziness has no limits. Now here is Diddy smack down in the middle of Tupac's death. And it's believable because of the rivalry. Guys, what do you think of this story? Do you believe it? Do you think Diddy is gonna be found guilty in this case? Although this guy Keefe is busy saying, I lied back in 2008. Now we need Foxy Brown to say what she knows. And I hope the prosecution are protecting Foxy Brown because, I don't know, she needs to be protected 24/7. Anyway, guys, that's the news of the day. Thank you so much for coming to our channel. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section down below. Until the next one, bye.